Welcome to the celebration of snowboard gear polyamory that is the Good Ride. I'm James Beastie, and it's time to do the 2026 All-Mountain Favorites list. So if you're wondering who the hell am I and why you should trust this list, well, I've been reviewing snowboards part-time since 2006, full-time since 2010. I've ridden almost 900 different models of snowboards, and a shit ton more if you count the different versions of those models over the years. I also try to extensively test each board in as many conditions as possible, and I do a lot of same-day comparisons. Nobody else compares on this level, and most reviewers don't even compare boards. And look, I'm no ripper, but I'm consistent and I have a deep snowboard gear memory. So if you're an average rider like me, this is the list you're gonna wanna see. By the way, this is no pay-to-play list. I don't charge the brands to make this list or require to keep the boards. These boards earned their spot strictly by how they ride. These are the boards that I personally want to own, want to use as baseliners when I'm comparing other boards, and I often recommend these the most out of all the boards I've tested. And I can do these objective reviews thanks to support from this community that I have here, and also thanks to Blower Board Shop. So if you want to support honest, objective content and a great shop that's been supporting snowboarders longer than most resorts have, click through our links to Blower Board Shop and buy something. It would be greatly appreciated. They have a large online presence, competitive pricing, fast shipping, and great customer support. So thanks in advance. So what's an all-mountain snowboard to the Good Ride? This is the closest to truly being a one-board quiver. It sits in between a mountain freestyle board and a freeride board. You can ride these centered and switch on groomers like a mountain freestyle board can, but you can also set these back a little bit to give you a taste of what it's like to be a freeride board. These boards can say yes to just about anything you want to do. They can't do everything great, but they can do it all. And if you want to learn more about how we define our snowboards, check out my riding styles article and video on thegoodride.com. And if you want to learn more about the board, click through to the individual reviews on thegoodride.com, check the ratings, use our filters and our comparison tool. You can get a much better experience there than you can on YouTube. One other thing, there's also a lot of great snowboards out there, as well as a lot of different riding preferences. So if your favorite didn't make this list, you won't have to pick up the shattered pieces of your life, sell your board, and buy a new one. What you're riding might still be the best option for you. So now that we have all that shit out of the way, here's my list. So first up is the Telos DST, a damp yet poppy, excellent all-day ride. It's best for committed intermediates on up to experts. The Telos DST made this list because I love the way this has so much chatter resistance without feeling dull like so many damp boards can. This is also more on the directional side, but it rides pretty centered on board, so you can for sure throw it around switch and play around if you want to. This is the board I like to have when I'm going to ride all day. I know it's going to get messy, so I want to be ready for it all. It's got a great turn to it. It's very poppy and very easy to get air with. There are better boards on this list for easier float and powder, but it's not bad for a one-board quiver, especially if you see a lot of steeper terrain. Now next up is the Ride Moderator, a forgiving but far from boring and very versatile all-around ride. This works for committed beginners on up to experts. The Ride Moderator takes a very versatile, somewhat directional shape with a little bit of taper and with all the usual ride dampening tech, but then they threw in a very light, poppy core, and this is a brilliant combination because it doesn't fall apart in uneven snow, but still has very good pop for this mellow camber profile. On top of that, it has decent float. It's not that bad switch, and it's really easy to get air with. I like this multiple radius side cut that responds differently according to how you weight your turns. So if you back foot weight it, gives it a tighter radius. Center weighting your turn gives it a pretty balanced turning experience. And then front foot weighted turns are a little more down the line. I've found this to be a more fun ride than the Deep Fake just because it has chill and full throttle moods where the deep fake really only shines when you're going all out. So next up is the Never Summer Proto Type 3, one of the highlights of my testing last season. And this is more than just a hard snow favorite. This works for committed beginners all the way up to experts. The Proto Type 3 has exceptional grip in hard snow, but here's the cool thing. It doesn't grab in soft snow, and it makes it so much more than a hard snow favorite. If you want a true twin for park to mountain freestyle riding, but also want to have that option to set it back in powder and get easier directional float with the setback inserts, this is your board. If you're a mid-wide boot size or want a stiffer, wider, harder charging version of this deck, check out the Proto T3 Ultra because it's an exceptional board as well. I only wish the Proto Type 3 had the same augmented but still kind of forgiving camber profile of the T3 Ultra, but with this softer flex and narrower width. Other than that, there are almost no complaints, and this is one of the most versatile, durable boards on this list. Never Summer just always makes an incredibly durable board. Next up is the K2 Commonwealth, an old school, full camber, fun turner. This is best for advanced to expert riders. The Commonwealth is the board you want if you like old school, full-on camber without any lifted sides or modern camber tweaks. This is really old school. This centered setup on a more tapered directional shape is great for those who love getting air and want that extra landing gear in the tail. It's not that great for getting set back easy directional float. The base is slow, but at least it has good wax retention. And despite some of these drawbacks, it made the list just because of the spring you get out of a turn, the pop you get on an ollie, and I just couldn't get enough of this turning experience. This was the board I often took out for some personal time when I was done testing and comparing, and it's just a delight to make hard turns and get air with. Next up is the Nitro Alternator. This is the best go big, full camber directional board that actually has decent directional float. This is best for advanced expert riders. The Alternator isn't the kind of board I want to be on when I'm in a chill, cruisy mood, but man, it's a fun board to turn. It has very good float for being full camber, and it pops really well and pretty easy for being full camber. It's really good in uneven snow too. This is on the list for the old school camber lovers that want something a little more set back and easier floating than the K2 Commonwealth, but still want a more centered feel than most freeride boards. Next up is the ironically named Capita Black Snowboard of Death, a forgiving but poppy and very versatile all-rounder. This can work for intermediates on up to experts. So the Black Snowboard of Death has always been a really recommendable board, but since 2024, they changed up the stance, location, and it made it more set back on board, and it gave it a little narrower stance width, and that's what brought it over into the favorites list. It's a much more recommendable ride now. This is a very well-rounded ride that can do a little bit of everything. For 2026, they dropped that faux wood top sheet, which is kind of a bummer because it made it a little better and soft uneven snow, and I'm gonna miss that, but the new construction has a little easier pop. This isn't the hardest carver on the list, but it truly is a very versatile, well-rounded board with a really fast base. It's got really good float for an all-mountain board and solid pop for not having that much camber. It's the kind of board I love to have in my quiver, and it can handle just about any mood you're in, from full throttle to chill. Now next up is the Lib Tech Dynamo, a hard snow directional favorite. This is best for advanced to expert riders who love an almost full camber ride. The Dynamo is pretty technical, catchy. It doesn't have the best bass, but it's got a very drivey, fun, old school camber feel to it. It also has a ton of grip, so you don't have to dial back your turns as much in harder snow. This is a very good, old school, full camber, directional, slightly tapered alternative to the Never Summer Proto Type 3 for those that don't ride switch as much, but love to carve and get air in all conditions and still want a more centered ride, even though it has a pretty far setback on side cut. And while this isn't ideal for those chill moods, it's so fun if you're in the mood to push it, especially on hard snow days, but it's not bad in POW for full camber either. Now, these two boards next on the list have changed since I last rode them, but I want to put them in because I really like the changes, and they're still going to have a lot of that same personality that I loved before. First up is the Crane. It's an all ability level, do anything kind of ride. This is fine for committed beginners on up to expert riders, and it's not boring for any ability level. When you set up the Cardiff Crane on reference, it has the same width over each insert, and that gives it almost a twin-like feel that's really fun to turn, but also has a great mountain freestyle switch riding personality to it. But on a POW day, the 4mm of taper in the tail with a lot less surface area than the nose and a 2.3 7.5-inch setback on board gives it pretty easy directional float. It also has enough early rise before the nose and tail to give it a forgiving but still pretty poppy feel. This is a really fun, versatile ride, and the Crane came out of a new factory from Canada this year versus GP87 in China, and it has a lot of changes that I really like. One, it's got a slightly damper core that's a touch heavier, and that makes it better in uneven snow. And that was one of the issues I had with the older board. The Enduro Limited has a slightly damper, slightly more durable top sheet too, so if you're gonna go with one, I'd probably go with that one. Number two, it's a little narrower this year with a little more turny side cut that I personally love. Number three, it's got more disruption in the side cut, so it has even better grip than before. And while this review won't be up till early winter, I wanted to put it in this list because all these changes are changes I really like and prefer. Now, if you want something a little more softer, a little more directional, and tapered at a little bit cheaper price, check out the Lynx, which is wider this year, has a more directional shape, more damp core, more disruption in the side cut, and a little more camber, giving it a little more pop than previous years. And that's always been an honorary mention next to the Crane. They kind of go hand in hand. The only thing I wish they both had was setback inserts so they could compete on the level of the next board I'm going to talk about, and that's the United Shapes Horizon, which is one of the best boards in POW on this list and arguably the most versatile ride here as well. This works with committed intermediates on up to experts. The Horizon has a new nose with more surface area that'll float better in powder. It also has a lighter matte top sheet and a little bit lighter, poppier core. That being said, it still has a very similar ride between the feet that I really enjoyed before. Now, it doesn't have the best grip in hard snow, but it made this list because it's one of the most versatile boards I've tried. It truly feels like you're buying two boards. These setback inserts give this more setback on board than most freeride boards, and with the slight taper, it has exceptional float for an all-mountain ride. But if you set it up on reference stance, it almost has that twinish, non-tapered feel that isn't that bad to ride switch. You can take a mountain freestyle approach to this on groomers because of this medium flex. It's got a very balanced and springy turning experience to it as well that I really appreciate. Now, one thing, the standard extreme is not on my favorites list, but it's going to be on Davey's big guy favorites list. So check that out. That'll be coming up soon as well. Now, let's jump into the low-cost all-mountain favorites list. First up is the Jones Rally Cat. This is an easy flexing, forgiving, fun, ride anywhere, do anything kind of ride, and it leans a little bit more on the park side, but has some mountain competence as well. This works for beginners on up to experts without being boring at any ability level. So the Rally Cat is a great low-cost solution for riders into boards like the Never Summer Proto Type 3 and the Cardiff Crane, but are on a budget. You still get a pretty fast base, solid pop, competent grip, and a very consistent feel underfoot in all conditions. And when set all the way back, it's not that bad in powder either. There are better boards out there though, for sure. It's a really well-rounded, do anything, fun to butter, fun to ollie kind of ride for those who want to try everything in the park, including jibs, but also want a competent board for the mountain with some setback on board, so it's not going to be a full-on cartwheeler in powder. Next up is the Korua Otto. This is not just a low-cost favorite. If this was more money, it would still be on the favorites list. It's fast, it's hard carving, and it's a great floating all-rounder. This is best for intermediates on up to expert riders, and it's far from boring or too challenging at any ability level. The Otto comes at a reasonable price, but isn't a budget board by any means. In fact, it outshines a lot of boards at higher price points. And what I love about the Otto is the special carving experience, the pop on an ollie, the stability at speed, and its free ride-like float in powder. And when you set it all the way back, I'd say it's second to the Horizon in terms of float on this list. And it's one of my favorite boards to go out on clean groomers and make the best turns I can. This is an exceptional board for riders like me with a normal boot size like a 9, but want a forgiving, easy to turn, hard carver. But it's also great for mid-wide sized boots that want an easy mid-wide as a daily driver. Lastly, we have the hard snow, low-cost favorite, the Gnu Antigravity. This is an easy buttering, super poppy, full camber directional gripper. This is best for advanced expert riders, and the Antigravity is a softer, round-nosed version of the Dynamo. And while it's still full camber and it can be catchy, it's a lot easier to turn at slower speeds and doesn't need that all-out riding like the Dynamo does. In same-day comparisons, this gripped even better than the Dynamo in hard snow, and it's not bad for a full camber ride in powder either. The only thing I wish it had was the Lib Tech Librig's more forgiving, floaty camber profile, and I wish it had a faster base, but this is still an excellent hard snow choice for those that want stability and grip, but an easy board to butter with great pop at a reasonable price. So there you have it. I hope this list helps. And make sure to check out the full article on thegoodride.com. Also check out the individual reviews and support objective content by buying through our links. Also, becoming a Patreon member really helps us out. You get early access to reviews, a lot of comparisons that you won't see anywhere else, and better advice than you'd get on YouTube by a good bit. And speaking of, if you need advice or you want to share your take, I need context. So give me your boot size, your weight, your height, as well as the make, model, year, and size board you ride now. Otherwise, it's really hard for me to help you, and it's also really hard for you to help others to understand your take. And if you really want in-depth advice, hit me up in the paid advice section. And of course, thanks for all your support all these years. It really makes this job a lot more fun having a community like I have here, and I'm truly thankful.